Hello students, welcome you all back to my channel. I'm Hashim Ali Khan here. Presently we are discussing the subject cost accounting. Already we have covered up 4 topics in cost accounting. That is unit and output costing, job costing, contract costing, process costing, different methods of costing we have completed. Now we are going to start a new chapter, new topic called overhead costing. But before that, if you are new to my channel, first time if you are watching my video, please go to the playlist of my channel. Select the subject cost accounting. Watch the videos of unit and output costing, job costing, process costing, contract costing. Get a command, good command on the subject of cost accounting. If you are not related to this subject, if you want the other subjects like advanced accounting, financial accounting, corporate accounting, business statistics, financial management, investment management, all these subjects videos I have already uploaded in my playlist. So go to the playlist, get a good command on all your concerned subjects. And now I'm going to start the topic called overhead accounting and overhead costing. Now see here. First we are going to discuss what is the meaning of the term overheads. In unit and output costing, we have prepared the cost sheet. If you remember, cost sheet is a statement of cost which shows the different elements of cost. The elements of cost are direct material, direct wages, direct expenses combined together constitutes prime cost. And any cost which is over and above prime cost are called overheads. In simple words, I can say like this: the total cost of production can be divided into direct cost and indirect cost. The direct costs are the costs which are specifically incurred in order to produce a particular good or in order to complete a particular contract, particular job. तो कोई जॉब को कंप्लीट करने के लिए, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कंप्लीट करने के लिए स्पेसिफिक कॉस्ट जो इनकर करेंगे वो होगा डायरेक्ट कॉस्ट. अब इनडायरेक्ट कॉस्ट क्या है? द कॉस्ट विच इज नॉट स्पेसिफिकली इनकर्ड फॉर ए पर्टिकुलर प्रोडक्ट बट द जॉब विच इज इनकर्ड कॉमनली फॉर ऑल द प्रोडक्ट्स, फॉर ऑल द जॉब्स. सो इनडायरेक्ट एलिमेंट ऑफ कॉस्ट आर कॉल्ड ओवरहेड्स. In simple one word we can say overheads are the indirect expenses. All indirect expenses are called overheads. In simple words, any expense which is over and above prime cost are called overheads. Now see here, in order to find out the total cost of production, the cost accountant and the producer must be clear regarding what are direct cost and what are indirect cost. So in order to ascertain the total cost, in order to control the cost, the classification of cost is very much necessary. Without classification, we cannot be able to ascertain the true cost. We cannot be able to control the cost. So ascertain करने के लिए classification. Classification क्या है? Direct cost and indirect cost. Remember, it is very easy to find out the direct cost. Not much difficulty will arise in order to find out the direct cost. That is how much direct material, how much direct labor, how much direct expenses. I'll give you a simple example. Suppose we are the manufacturer of furniture. Our factory is furniture manufacturing factory. We want to ascertain what is the total cost of production of making a sofa set. So in order to make a sofa set, we have to give the quotation. In this quotation, we need how much material is required. Specifically, we calculate how much material we require to make a sofa set, how much labor is required to make a sofa set, how much direct expenditure we require to make the sofa set. Easily we can calculate and estimate by the production manager. The production manager, the producer can be able to estimate how much material, how much wages, how much direct expenses. But that is not the total cost. Apart from the expenditure which is specifically incurred on making the sofa set, some more expenditure has to be incurred indirectly. Example, the rent of the factory where this sofa set is being produced, rent is paid, electricity bill is paid. Apart from that, some other expenditure like electricity bill of the factory, rent of the factory, depreciation of the machinery, employees welfare expenditure, all these are the expenditure which are incurred in the factory but not directly related to producing the sofa set. अब ये एक्सपेंडिचर जो इनकर कर रहे हैं ये सारे प्रोडक्ट के लिए इनकर कर रहे हैं, खाली सोफा सेट के लिए इनकर नहीं कर रहे हैं। अब क्वेश्चन ये अराइज होता, ये अदर एक्सपेंडिचर जो इनडायरेक्ट एक्सपेंडिचर इसको कैसा अब्सॉर्ब करेंगे सोफा सेट में, कितना सोफा सेट में चार्ज करेंगे। दिस इज द मेन कंटेंशन ऑफ दिस टॉपिक, ओवरहेड्स। So simple words, the meaning of the term overhead is the indirect expenditure is called overhead. Any cost which is over and above the prime cost are called overheads. Now classification of overheads. Broadly we can divide the overheads into three categories: factory overhead, administration overhead, and selling and distribution overhead. And these concepts already we have discussed in the chapter unit and output costing. While preparing the cost sheet, I have explained you in detail regarding all the overheads: factory overhead, administration overhead, selling and distribution. Factory overhead means the overheads which are incurred in the factory or production department. In the production department where goods are manufactured, any overheads are incurred, that is called factory overhead. Similarly, administration overhead, the expenditure incurred in the administration and management organization, management department. Administration and management department expenditure incurred is called administrative overhead. Similarly, selling and distribution overhead, the overheads which are incurred in the selling marketing department, that is called selling and distribution overhead. Now another way of classifying the overhead is fixed overheads and variable overheads. One more is also the semi-variable overheads. Fixed overheads are those overheads which will remain fixed irrespective of the level of activity. Example, in the factory. In the factory, the rent of the factory premises are paid. Whether the production is more or the production is less doesn't matter. The rent of the factory will be a period cost. Will be a cost which is incurred according to the period, according to the month or year, time. So it is not related with production. So it is called a fixed overhead. Right? The total fixed overhead will remain same, but per unit fixed overhead will decline as the production increases. As the production decreases, the per unit fixed cost will increase, but the total fixed overhead will remain same. Example of these fixed overheads are rent of the premises or manager's salary paid in the factory, like that. Now variable overheads, name itself is clear. Variable overheads are those overheads which varies according to the production. More production, more variable overheads. Less production, less variable overhead. No production, no variable overheads. It will go along with the production proportionately. The per unit variable overhead will remain same, but the total variable overhead will change proportionately along with the production or output. Now semi-variable, another classification of overhead is semi-variable. It is partly fixed and partly variable. To some extent the overheads will remain fixed. Later on it will become variable. So in this way we classify overheads. In examination you may be asked very frequently, explain overheads, or explain the classification of overheads. So whatever I have explained you in detail, that will be more than enough to write the theory question regarding overheads. Now allocation and apportionment of overheads. Now first of all, the overheads should be collected and classified. In order to find out the true cost of production, the management, the cost accountant should collect the data regarding the overheads and classify the overheads into appropriate heads. Then after collecting and classifying the overheads have to be absorbed or apportioned. Then the question, what do you mean by allocation and apportionment of overheads? Allocation of overheads means specifically charging a particular overhead to a particular department. Specific charging of overheads to a particular department is called allocation. Simple example I'll give you. Suppose overtime work is done in a department. Overtime charges have been paid in a department. So these overhead charges which are paid in a department should be allocated in a department only. It will not be divided between different departments. तो जो डिपार्टमेंट में ओवरहेड हुआ है वही डिपार्टमेंट में चार्ज करें, तो उसको एलोकेशन बोलेंगे. Similarly, some extra expenditure is incurred in C department, then we charge the extra expenditure only in C department. So specifically charging of overhead to a particular department is called allocation. Now what is apportionment? Apportionment means a common overhead should be distributed, divided between different products or different departments. तो ऐसा कॉमन एक्सपेंडिचर है जो एक डिपार्टमेंट में नहीं है बल्कि कई डिपार्टमेंट में डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करना है ऑन ए सूटेबल बेसिस. कोई एक बेसिस लेकर ये बेसिस के ऊपर पूरे डिपार्टमेंट के ऊपर डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करना, दैट इज कॉल्ड अपॉर्शनमेंट. तो एलोकेशन स्पेसिफिकली चार्जिंग ऑफ ओवरहेड टू अ पर्टिकुलर डिपार्टमेंट. अपॉर्शनमेंट a common expenditure should be distributed among different departments on some suitable basis. That is the difference between allocation and apportionment. Now primary distribution. There are two types of distributions called primary distribution and secondary distribution. Primary distribution means allocation and apportionment of overheads among all departments. Suppose in a manufacturing organization there are three types of departments. The first department is producing department or manufacturing department. This department are concerned with converting the raw material into finished goods. Then secondly, service department. The service department will not produce anything, but it will give some service to the production department. It will help the production department, right? Semi-producing department, some other departments are also there. Semi-producing department, partly producing, partly service, but this department is a very rare department. It's only in theory. In real practice we come across two types of departments: manufacturing or producing department, and second one, service department. These are the two types of department. Now primary distribution means the allocation and apportionment of overheads among all departments. Example, suppose in a manufacturing organization 3 production departments. The production departments are A, B and C. These 3 are production department. Then D and E are service department. So totally 5 departments the company is having. 3 production and 2 service department. Up for example, any overhead expenditure should be apportioned among all departments. Imagine kariye. Now imagine in one building, in one premises, a company will have 5 floors, 5 departments. 5 departments on 5 floors. First A, B, C department are production department, D and E are the service department. अब ये department का पूरा जो rent रहेगा, rent of the complete building will be apportioned among all the departments. तो पूरा rent जो रहेगा पूरे departments में allocate करेंगे A, B, C, D, E. उसी तरह electricity bill in the same way, electricity bill of the departments, electricity bill of the building will be distributed among all the 5 departments. This is called primary distribution. Means allocating and apportionment of overheads among all departments. Production department as well as service department. That is called primary distribution. Then after that we have to make the secondary distribution. In secondary distribution, the reapportionment of service department overheads back to production department. Ultimately goods produce कहां पर हो रहे हैं? प्रोडक्शन डिपार्टमेंट में. तो कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन किसका मालूम करना है? प्रोडक्ट्स का मालूम करना है जो प्रोडक्शन डिपार्टमेंट. तो फिर सर्विस डिपार्टमेंट का जो टोटल एक्सपेंडिचर है उसको रीअपोर्शनमेंट करेंगे among the production department. So first we have to make the primary distribution, distributing the expenditure among all departments. After completing that, we take the total of all the departments. A, B, C, D, E. ये 5 डिपार्टमेंट्स का टोटल कर लिए. टोटल करने के बाद अब D और E, the departments D and E, the total of the departments D and E will be reapportioned back to ABC. D और E का जो टोटल है वो D और E के टोटल को वापस रीअपोर्शन कर देंगे कहीं में? ABC में, ताकि D और E खत्म हो जाना, क्लोज हो जाना. D और E को खत्म कर देना. The total of D and E will be absorbed in A, B and C. That is called secondary distribution. Now the question arises, how to make the apportionment? How to make the apportionment, on what basis? There are no hard and fast rules regarding the basis on which the apportionment should be done. एक एक्सपेंडिचर है तो उसको क्या बेसिस के ऊपर पूरों में डिवाइड करेंगे, कौन से रेशो में डिवाइड करेंगे, दैट इज द क्वेश्चन. Unfortunately, there are no hard and fast rules. We have to apply our own principles. We have to apply our own logic. Logic देखेंगे कौन से एक्सपेंडिचर किससे रिलेटेड है, कौन सा एक्सपेंडिचर किससे रिलेटेड है, तो जो भी रिलेटेड रहेगा वो यूज करके बेसिस बनाएंगे, राइट? तो नॉर्मली द कॉस्ट अकाउंटेंट हैज गिवन मेनी एग्जांपल्स टू टेक द बेसिस ऑफ रीअपोर्शनमेंट. नाउ आई एम शोइंग basis of primary distribution. In primary distribution, first item, basis of apportionment. Factory rent and depreciation of factory building. Factory rent and depreciation of factory building. This will be divided according to the floor area occupied or capital value of the asset. तो फैक्ट्री बिल्डिंग है, डेप्रिसिएशन ऑफ द फैक्ट्री है, तो इसको फ्लोर एरिया यानी कौन सा डिपार्टमेंट कितना एरिया ऑक्यूपाई करा. It is not necessary that all the departments occupied equal area. Some department have taken more area, some department may have taken less area. So in the ratio of area, we divide the depreciation, the factory rent and depreciation of the factory. Secondly, canteen expense, general welfare expense, ESI contribution of employer. Canteen. Sometimes a canteen is maintained to provide the facilities to the employees and workers. एक building है, 5-storied building है. अब ये 5-storied building में first 3-storied are production departments, 2-storied are service department. अब all the employees working in all the departments are taking the benefit from the canteen. The canteen provides subsidized food, subsidized tea, lunch, refreshments. ये सब subsidized दे रहा है. किसको दे रहा है? Employees को दे रहा है. Subsidy कौन provide कर रहा है? Employer is giving the subsidy, right? Now expenditure incurred by the employer on the canteen which provides the service to the employees and workers will be divided in the ratio of number of employees or wages of each department. अब एक एक डिपार्टमेंट में कितने कितने वर्कर्स हैं ये रेशो लेंगे. A department 10 workers are there, B department 8 workers are there, C department 5 workers. तो 10, 8, 5, 10 is to 8 is to 5. अब D और E में 20-25 वर्कर्स, 20 is to 25. तो एक रेशो मालूम कर लेंगे ऑफ द नंबर ऑफ वर्कर्स इन ईच डिपार्टमेंट एंड दैट रेशो विल बी टेकन एज ए बेसिस फॉर विच एक्सपेंडिचर, कैंटीन एक्सपेंडिचर और एम्प्लॉई वेलफेयर एक्सपेंडिचर और ESI contribution of the employer. These are the items which will be distributed on the ratio of number of workers. Second, depreciation and insurance of machinery. Machinery है, machinery का depreciation and insurance that will be divided in the ratio of value of machinery. Similarly, electric power. Electric power, the expenditure on electric power will be distributed on the basis of HP of machines. Horsepower. HP stands for horsepower of the machine. जितना ज़्यादा HP of machine रहेगा उतना power consumption ज़्यादा होगा. Power consumption ज़्यादा होगा. तो more HP of machines, more power consumption, more electric power. So electric power expenditure will be distributed in the ratio of HP of machines. Electric lighting, the number of light points or floor area. Lighting अलग है, electric power अलग है. Electric power means the current which is used to run the machinery, and electric lighting is the expenditure incurred on current which is used for running the fans, tubes, etc. So the electric lighting, the expenditure on electric lighting will be distributed on the basis of number of light points. यानी एक एक डिपार्टमेंट में कितने light points हैं, on that basis we divide the electric lighting. Or suppose some of the problems electric number of light points are not given. When number of light points are not given, we use floor area. क्योंकि जितना ज़्यादा floor area रहेगा उतनी ज़्यादा lighting होगी, कम floor area रहेगा कम lighting होगी. So first we take number of light points. If number of light points are not given, we take the area. Then supervision. Supervision will be distributed in the number of workers of total wages of each department. Supervision को जो है कितने workers हैं कितने wages हैं. Audit fees, sales or total cost, store service expense, value of material consumed. That's all. These are some of the examples. कॉस्टिंग में कुछ प्रिंसिपल्स है, ये बेसिस के ऊपर हम अपॉर्शनमेंट करेंगे. इन द कमिंग प्रॉब्लम्स व्हेन एन आइटम इज गिवन, immediately you should think what should be the basis for apportionment of this expenditure. Accordingly, that ratio will be used to distribute the overheads. In the absence of information, overhead expenses can be apportioned on the basis of direct wages. Sometimes it is not at all feasible to take a reasonable basis. It is not clear cut on what basis we have to apportion. In that case, it is better to take total wages of each department. Total wages of each department. That ratio will be used to apportion the overhead expenditure. तो अगर क्लियर कट समझ में नहीं आ रहा, कोई लॉजिक व्यू नहीं आ रहा, तो वो टाइम पे डायरेक्ट वेजेस के रेशियो में पूरे ओवरहेड्स को डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करेंगे. नाउ बेसिस ऑफ सेकेंडरी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन. अब सेकेंडरी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, रीअपोर्शनमेंट ऑफ सर्विस डिपार्टमेंट टू प्रोडक्शन डिपार्टमेंट. सेकेंडरी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन का मतलब होता है रीअपोर्शनमेंट ऑफ सर्विस डिपार्टमेंट टू प्रोडक्शन डिपार्टमेंट. अब इसके लिए बेसिस क्या है? मेंटेनेंस अगर डिपार्टमेंट अगर है तो आवर्स वर्कड इन ईच डिपार्टमेंट. आवर्स वर्कड इन ईच डिपार्टमेंट, दिस इज द बेसिस फॉर डिवाइडिंग मेंटेनेंस डिपार्टमेंट. पेरोल और टाइम कीपिंग डिपार्टमेंट, टोटल लेबर आवर्स और मशीन आवर्स. पेरोल और टाइम कीपिंग डिपार्टमेंट, टोटल लेबर और मशीन आवर और नंबर ऑफ एम्प्लॉइज इन ईच डिपार्टमेंट. Similarly, employment or personal department, number of employees in each department. Similarly, storekeeping department, number of requisition or quantity or value of material used. Similarly, purchase department, number of purchase orders or value of material. Welfare canteen expenses, number of employees in each department. This is just a bird's eye view so that you can be able to remember, you can be able to think that which item should be used for which overheads. अगर एक particular overhead तो कौन सा suitable basis रहेगा, that you have to remember. Next thing is inter-service department transfer. Inter-service department transfer. Normally, service department will provide the service to production department. A, B, C production department है, D and E service department है. तो ये D और E service provide करना है, किसको provide करना है? ABC को. यानी D should provide the service to ABC, E should provide the service to ABC. But sometimes what will happen, one service department will provide the service not only to production department but also to other service department. एक सर्विस डिपार्टमेंट सर्विस जो दे रहा है सिर्फ प्रोडक्शन डिपार्टमेंट को ही नहीं दे रहा, प्रोडक्शन डिपार्टमेंट के साथ साथ अदर सर्विस डिपार्टमेंट को भी सर्विस दे रहा है. एग्जांपल डी. डी इज प्रोवाइडिंग द सर्विस नॉट ओनली टू ए बी सी बट ऑल्सो टू ई. ई को भी दे रहा है. और E is providing the service not only to A, B, C but also to D. यानी इसको इंटर सर्विस डिपार्टमेंट कहते हैं. मीनिंग ऑफ इंटर सर्विस डिपार्टमेंट, वन सर्विस डिपार्टमेंट इज प्रोवाइडिंग द सर्विस टू अनदर सर्विस डिपार्टमेंट. डी सर्विस E को दे रहा, E सर्विस D को दे रहा, इसको इंटर सर्विस डिपार्टमेंट कहते हैं. तो अगर इंटर सर्विस डिपार्टमेंट है तो हाउ टू फाइंड आउट, हाउ टू मेक द रीअपोर्शनमेंट. तो ये टाइम पे 3 मेथड्स आते हैं. Simultaneous equation method, repeated distribution method, trial and error method. By using these 3 methods, we can be able to reapportion the service department overheads back to production department by using any of the 3 methods. We have to solve the problem on this repeated simultaneous equation method, repeated distribution, trial and error method. Now, one point you have to remember. While making overhead distribution summary, we take direct material and direct wages of service department. Actually, we have 2 types of expenditure, direct and indirect. तो डायरेक्ट मटेरियल, डायरेक्ट वेजेस, डायरेक्ट एक्सपेंसेस, ये प्राइम कॉस्ट हो गया, इसको कंसिडर नहीं करना इन ओवरहेड समरी. इन मेकिंग ओवरहेड क्लासिफिकेशन समरी, we should not take direct material, direct wages and direct expense, but it should not be taken only for production department. सर्विस डिपार्टमेंट में चाहे डायरेक्ट मटेरियल लेबर अगर यूज भी हो रहा तो वो इनडायरेक्ट हो गया. Because all expenditure incurred in service department are overheads. So if in the problem direct material, direct wages, direct expense are given, we should see if it is for production department we should not take. If it is there for service department we should take. So direct material, direct wages, direct expenses we should take into account only for service department. For production department, these 3 items should not be taken. It is not a part of overhead summary. Now we discuss the overhead absorption rates. the overheads have to be absorbed in each of the product produced or in each of the department. So what are the different methods of absorbing of overheads or methods of charging of overheads to a particular department or particular product? So different methods are there. Every method will have their own advantages and limitations. So according to the circumstances, according to the situation, the producer will adopt a suitable method of absorption of overheads. The methods of absorption of overheads are, first one, percentage on direct material. Some producers says the overhead will be absorbed as a percentage of direct material. For example, in the case of a factory, the factory overheads are there. So the producer will calculate what is the percentage of factory overhead on direct material consumed. For example, in a particular period, the total factory overhead are 1 lakh. Total factory overheads are 1 lakh. Whereas the total material consumed in the factory is 10 lakhs. So 1 lakh rupees factory overhead, 10 lakh rupees is the material. So what is the percentage of factory overhead on direct material? So overhead rate will get amount of factory overhead divided by cost of direct material into 100. In our example just now I have given 1 lakh rupees is the factory overhead and 10 lakh rupees is the direct material. So 1 lakh by 10 lakh into 100, 10%. So we can say the factory overheads are 10% of material. तो जो भी material, जितना भी material use होगा उसका 10% factory overhead charge करेंगे. This is one method of absorbing the factory overhead. Secondly, percentage of direct wages method. In this case, we relate the factory overhead to direct wages. Here we have related factory overhead to direct material. Second method, for percentage of factory overhead to direct wages. So overhead rate will be to amount of factory overhead divided by cost of direct labor or direct wages into 100. Suppose again I will give the same example, 1 lakh rupees is the factory overhead and 10 lakh rupees is the direct labor cost. So 1 lakh by 10 lakh into 100, 10%. तो जितना भी लेबर कॉस्ट रहेगा उसका 10% फैक्ट्री ओवरहेड चार्ज करेंगे. सेकंड मेथड. थर्ड मेथड, परसेंटेज ऑफ प्राइम कॉस्ट. प्राइम कॉस्ट इज द कॉम्बिनेशन. प्राइम कॉस्ट इज द कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ direct material, direct wages, direct expenses. So some authors, some producers says we calculate the factory overhead as a percentage of prime cost. In that case, factory overhead rate is amount of factory overhead divided by total prime cost into 100. Next method is labor hour rate. Some producers says we absorb the overhead on the basis of labor hour rate. So when labor hour rate is used, we calculate what is the factory overhead per labor hour. Per labor hour. Same example I'll give you. In a factory, the total factory overhead are 1 lakh rupees. 1 lakh rupees is the total factory overhead. And in the factory, 10,000 labor hours are used in a period. In a period, total factory overhead 1 lakh and total number of labor hours utilized is 10,000. So what is the labor hour rate? Total factory overhead divided by total number of labor hours. So 1 lakh rupees divided by 10,000 hours. You will get 10 rupees. You will get 10 rupees. That means for every 1 labor hour, 10 rupees is the factory overhead. अब कोई प्रोडक्ट बनाने के लिए कितने घंटे यूज हो रहा है ये देखेंगे. Suppose 100 hours are used in order to make a product. So for every hour 10 rupees factory overhead. So 100 into 10, 1000 rupees factory overhead will be charged to that product. This is based on labor hour rate. This is also one of the method of absorbing overhead rate. Now last method is machine hour rate. The most often used, the method of absorbing the overhead is machine hour rate. This machine hour rate will be utilized particularly by those organizations where machinery is widely used in production. अगर प्रोडक्शन में मशीनरी बहुत ज्यादा यूज कर रहे हैं तो दे विल कैलकुलेट मशीन आवर रेट एंड दे विल अब्सॉर्ब द फैक्ट्री ओवरहेड ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ मशीन आवर रेट. तो व्हाट इज मशीन आवर रेट? Expenses incurred when a machine is run for 1 hour. Simple definition, meaning expenses incurred on a machine to run the machine for 1 hour. 1 घंटा अगर मशीन चला तो कितना एक्सपेंडिचर हो रहा मशीन के ऊपर. उसको कहिए मशीन आवर रेट। तो ओवरहेड्स रिलेटिंग टू मशीन आर डिवाइडेड इनटू टू पार्ट्स। अब मशीन आवर रेट मालूम करने के लिए वी हैव टू कलेक्ट ऑल द ओवरहेड्स रिलेटिंग टू मशीन। मशीन को रिलेटेड जो भी ओवरहेड्स रहेगा उसका सारा डाटा कलेक्ट करेंगे एंड वी डिवाइड द ऑल ओवरहेड्स ऑफ मशीन इनटू टू कैटेगरीज, दैट इज फिक्स्ड और स्टैंडिंग चार्जेस एंड वेरिएबल और मशीन एक्सपेंसेस। तो मशीन आवर रेट व्हेन वी हैव टू कैलकुलेट we need two overheads. We divide the overheads into two. First, fixed or standing charges. Second, variable or run machine expenses. So in many problems, we have to solve many problems on machine hour rate. So concentrate on this theory particularly. So fixed or standing charges. Name itself is clear. Fixed का मतलब है कि ये चेंज नहीं होगा. The expenditure which is to be incurred whether the machine is running or machine is not running. Even the machine is stopped, expenditure will be incurred. That is called fixed or standing charges. The expenditure of machine which are fixed are example rent and rates, lighting, supervision, lubricating oil, insurance. Remember this point because next video I am going to make the problems. I have to start the problem. At that time you have to remember what are fixed or standing charges and what are machine expenses. So example of fixed or standing charges, rent and rates, lighting, supervision, lubricating oil, insurance. Now standing charges are calculated for a period. Period का मतलब या month या year. So we calculate all the standing charges for 1 month or for 1 year. Then the total of this will be divided by the estimated number of working hours of the machine. एक महीने में suppose total standing charges are 1 lakh. Total standing charges of the machine is 1 lakh rupees in 1 month, and during the month the machine hours, all the machine hours worked was 10,000. 10,000 machine hours are worked. 1 lakh rupees is the total factory overhead. Sorry, total standing charges. So we divide 1 lakh rupees total standing charges for 1 month divided by 10,000 machine hours used. So 10 rupees per hour. And standing charges are 10 rupees per hour. Then by the total number of hours. Variable or machine expense are depreciation, repairs, power. Depreciation, repair, power. These are the examples of variable or machine expenses. What are variable or machine expenses? The expenses which are incurred only when the machine is running. If the machine is stopped, no expenditure is incurred. इसको कहते हैं machine expenses or variable expense. For machine expenses, hourly rates are calculated separately for each item. For each item, that is for depreciation, for repair, for power, every item separately we calculate machine hour rate. Per hour कितना होगा? For 1 hour, how much is the depreciation? For 1 hour, how much is the repair? For 1 hour, how much is the power? So hourly we have to calculate for each item separately, whereas in case of standing charges we calculate for the period, and the period total will be divided by estimated number of hours. Then note, some notes you have to remember while calculating this machine hour rate. First, while calculating normal working hours, the time required for maintenance or setting of the machine are to be deducted. Example, in a problem the total number of hours worked are 2000 in a period. In a period, total number of working hours of the machine is 2000. But in that 2000, 200 hours are setting up time or maintenance time. तो we subtract. 2000 घंटे normal working hours है, 2000 घंटे में 200 घंटे maintenance time है, setting up time है. तो effectively काम नहीं कर रहा. जब maintenance कर रहे हैं, जब setting up कर रहे हैं, तो machine work नहीं कर रहा, machine को maintain कर रहे हैं. तो these maintenance hours should be deducted to get the effective working hours. Next, if comprehensive machine hour rate is to be calculated, then machine operators wages will be added to the simple machine hour rate. कुछ प्रॉब्लम में आपको ये कहता है comprehensive machine hour rate मालूम करो. तो what is comprehensive machine hour rate? Calculate the simple machine hour rate. To that you add operators wages. Machine operators wages को add कर दिए तो comprehensive machine hour rate आ जाएगा. Next, any capital expenditure. If any capital expenditure is incurred like purchase of the machine or installment paid, this will not be taken in calculating machine hour rate. तो machine hour rate मालूम करते हो, only revenue expenditure should be taken. Capital expenditure should not be taken. Note, interest cost. There is difference of opinion regarding the interest charges paid to purchase the machine. मशीन परचेस करने के लिए लोन लिए, उसके ऊपर इंटरेस्ट पे करें, तो इंटरेस्ट चार्जेस को लेना या नहीं लेना इन मशीन आर रेट, देयर इज डिफरेंस ऑफ ओपिनियन. Some author says it should be taken, whereas some other author says it should not be taken. So what we should do, whether we should take or not, will give a note regarding this. Interest charges are taken or interest charges are not taken. Next, last one is depreciation. अब depreciation को कैसा लेंगे? How depreciation should be taken? Whether it should be taken under fixed or standing charges, or whether it should be taken under variable or machine. Again, there is difference of opinion. Opinion ये है, if the depreciation is calculated according to straight line method, fixed installment method, then depreciation should be taken under fixed or standing charges. तो कैसा मालूम होगा? If the life of the machine is given in years, life of the machine is given in years. For example, a machine costs rupees 1 lakh, the scrap value is 10,000, and the life of the machine is 10 years. तो लाइफ ऑफ द मशीन 10 years दिया है, years में दिया, then we treat depreciation as a fixed charges, we take it under standing. लेकिन कुछ प्रॉब्लम में देता, the life of the machine is not given in years, the life of the machine is given in hours. मशीन जब खरीद रहे हैं तो मशीन मैन्युफैक्चरर उसकी लाइफ जो है hours में दे रहा है, years में नहीं दे रहा, it is given in hours. In that case, depreciation will be taken under variable or machine expense. So simply while solving the problem, we have to see whether the life is given in years or hours. If it is given in years, treat depreciation as a fixed or standing charge. If the life of the machine is given in hours, treat the depreciation as a variable or machine expenses. So we have completed the theoretical part of this topic, overheads costing. Hope you understood what I have explained you in detail. So if you are satisfied with my lecture, give a like to this video. If you are new to my channel, subscribe it. And already you are aware about this channel, share it in your group so that more and more students can be benefited from these lectures. Again, next video I will start the problems on overhead costing.